right. Happy Wednesday. Hope y'all are having a beautiful, divine day. All right, today we are going to continue the conversation from yesterday. Yesterday we spoke about polarity and how understanding the laws of polarity helps us choose a partner. Today, the title of the discussion is You'll Keep Losing Her Until You Learn This. All right, so we're going to talk about healing the inner marriage between your masculine and your feminine energy. It's going to be beneficial for both men and women, right? But we are going to dive into how we are all just reflections of ourselves. It's going to be building on kind of the notion that we just live in an illusion of a world, right? And so the more that I understand about the more that I understand how certain spiritual laws work within the world, the better equipped I am to actually have a divine partnership. Okay? So, sacred union and the mirror of love, healing the inner marriage. All right. You think that you are searching for her, but what you're truly searching for is the forgotten half of yourself. The sacred feminine you exiled when you were taught that softness was weakness, and then the divine masculine that you silenced when power was mistaken for domination. You think you're searching for her, okay? The muse, the lover, the one who will finally quiet the ache in your chest and make you feel like a man. But what you're truly searching for is the forgotten half of yourself. The sacred counterpart you buried beneath performance, pride, and pain. As boys, many of us were taught to armor up, to harden, to pursue conquest over connection. And in that process, we exiled the sacred feminine, the part of us that feels deeply into its truth without logic. So the part of us that feels deeply, that can feel truth, understands truth without needing to logic, okay? Surrenders to love without fear. We mistook her softness for weakness, her flow for chaos, but in rejecting her, we lost our ability to nurture ourselves, to listen to the still small voice, to receive beauty without needing to possess it. So just to break down this first part, right? What we're going to be talking about is how everything that you're searching for in that woman, and ladies, you're going to get a lot from this too, right? We're also going to talk about everything that you're searching for within that man is already within you. And these aspects of ourselves, right? Because we all are the male and the female. We all are the positive and the negative, the masculine, the feminine, the yin, the yang, we are all of these parts, okay? So as we grow up, as we go through life, we are fed these illusory thoughts of what makes you masculine and feminine, right? And so often we get into relationships, or we go out in the world trying to find relationships, and what we're truly trying to find is the missing part of ourselves. Let's talk about the soul's journey, and then let's fast forward. Because if we understand the soul's journey and what you're actually fiending for, now we can understand what you are really looking for in a relationship. Your soul descends from oneness with the Most High, with the Creator. And so in that descension from source, because you decide to come down here to earth, what happens is you wrap yourself in flesh and blood and bones, okay? And then you also wrap yourself up into the illusion of time. My bad, y'all. This is a very traumatic experience for your soul. Not having a past, not knowing a future, right? Just everything happening at once right now. And then descending down here, okay? And now I have to go through time. And so how I'll constantly speak about this is I'll say it like this. When you're one with source and everything happens right now, there is no longing. There is no desire. There is no loss. Because the moment that you're born, the moment that you pass away, the moment that you have that woman in your life, the moment that you don't, all these things are happening right now. You can experience them all right now. And then you come here and you have to go through time in a linear way. So this introduces concepts of loss. Someone passes away, someone leaves you, because everything is not happening at once in this reality. You are introduced to the concept of loss, okay? Because the moment that you have a desire, it is not there for you to experience right now. You are introduced to the concept of longing, of desire, okay? So these things can be quite traumatic. Damn, these things can be quite traumatic. All right. So what else happens right? Is that you constantly, your soul fiends, your soul craves that God within you. And subconsciously, you miss that part of you that was in wholeness, right? That was in unity with the Most High. And what is the closest that we ever get to experience that in life? It's when we experience it through another person. Ladies, when you experience it through a man. Gentlemen, when we experience this through a woman. This is the closest that we feel to God. So you're not ever really looking for someone to complete you. You're looking for someone who sees God within you. And you're looking for someone that you can see God within. Someone that can remind you of who you really are, right? We just mistakenly think this is completion, but it's not. And now let's fast forward. The true paradox of this is that you can't even meet your divine counterpart if you do not marry your masculine and your feminine energies within yourself first. Oftentimes, what you are seeking outside of you is a repressed part of yourself. In order to get back into wholeness, we have to remember who we are and strip away some of the programming that has led us to how we think these days. Okay, so the first part, you think you're searching for her, the muse, the lover, the one who will finally quiet the ache in your chest and make you feel like a man, right? You think that the validation that I receive from someone looking at me as worthy is going to make me feel whole and loved and divine, okay? But no one could ever make you feel that way. No one could ever complete you. No one could give you enough validation, enough congratulation, could tell you good job enough to make you feel whole, okay? What you're truly searching for is the forgotten half of yourself. So we tend to lean into our masculine energy and completely disregard the feminine, all right? And then we go outside of ourselves and we try to find the feminine energy in other people. So the sacred counterpart that you buried beneath performance, pride, and pain. Okay? As boys, many of us were taught to armor up, to harden, to pursue conquest over connection. And a simple way that I can explain the feminine energy within you is the feminine energy within you is in the moment. It likes to think about the best thing to do right now. Your masculinity is always trying to build. It's always trying to look forward. Okay? It values discipline. It values presence. Huh? But your feminine energy, it values flow, fun, right? Expressing of how you feel right now. Right? This is feminine energy. But as men, we're often taught to suppress this part of you. Right? So in that process, we exile the sacred feminine, the part of us that feels deeply. Okay? And we talked about this yesterday when it came to repressing emotions. Okay? There is a part of you that feels deeply. There's a part of you that's very passionate. But you will even notice that, when you're communicating with other men, you're not going to go as deep because you don't want to seem weak. When you're communicating with women, you're not going to go as deep because you don't want to be seen as weak. Right? So we're taught to suppress that part. The part of us that intuits truth without logic. This is one of the things that you're going to learn on the spiritual path, is that when you are too much in your masculine, a lot of the work is in pulling your feminine out. It is how can you have a goal and get to a point where you actually release it. Most of us become so hyper fixated on how it's going to come that the moment that we have a desire, instead of just giving that desire to the God within us and saying it will be made manifest in my life, we start to bring all of our logic into our desire. We say, okay, well, if I'm gonna have this desire and it's gonna unfold, it has to be this way. The money has to come this way, right? It wouldn't be right. It wouldn't be logical for it to come this way, right? But the feminine energy within you is actually able to intuit, to feel, to understand, to see truth without logic. Okay? And it also surrenders to love without fear. There's a part of your masculinity that is very, very fearful, right? But your feminine energy can surrender to love with less fear. We tend to think of it, and I like to put things in kind of a realistic way or real life ways so we can understand them more. For men, why does it seem like as men, we tend to have about 2 or 3 solid loves in our entire life. If you ask most men how many women they've truly loved, truly looked at and said, this is my wife, it's very few. 2 or 3. Okay, if you're lucky, 2 or 3. Right? But we look at women and the way that women can flow through life. It's gonna sound, man, women could just go in and be in love and fall in love, and they might, go through, not saying that they don't go through difficult times, but that is a conversation that we have as men. Is damn, women just move the fuck on. They can be in love, they can be in a relationship really, really quick. Okay? But there is a part of the feminine energy within you that is able to surrender to love. It doesn't go through a lot of past experiences and just hold on to pain and guard its heart and then walk around through fear. Right? This is part of the divinity of the feminine energy within you. And it's not just in women, it's in men as well. All right. So we mistook her softness for weakness and her flow for chaos. It's one thing, or it's one way that we tend to describe feminine energy as chaotic. Okay, but it's flow. It's flow. Right? It's beyond our comprehension. If you pay attention to the emotions of a woman, it's very vast. They're very vast. A feminine energy leading woman, right? One that's connected to her womb. Her feelings are very, very vast. And how I would speak about it, right, is if men, we have a box of crayons that describe our emotions, we might have a 4-pack, an 8-pack. Women might have a 128-pack, right? They can explain their emotions in such depth because they're willing to explore them more. This is the feminine energy within you. And so we'll see that when it comes to things like vulnerability, emotional intelligence, right? If you truly want to connect with your woman, because it's not going to be good enough for you to only speak in logic, for you to only go through life in logic and think you're going to form a deep connection with a woman. Good luck with that. Right? You're going to have to be able to speak to her logic and then also speak to her emotions. In order to speak to someone's emotions, you have to understand your own emotions. So we have to tap into our feminine energy so we can actually say, beyond I'm sad, beyond I'm just mad, why are you mad? What do you feel in this moment? What is impacting you in this moment? Okay? So feminine energy, right? We have to be able to cultivate these things. And so this all comes back to connection, right? The relationship that you have with the women in your life is always going to come back to you. How is it going to come back to me? Well, the more in tune I am with my feminine energy, the more I can recognize this divine counterpart. I'm not looking for a woman to complete me. I'm looking for a woman who actually is a vibrational match to my own feminine energy. As odd as that may sound, okay? As I cultivate my feminine energy, I understand that my feminine energy has to be protected. And if I want to connect with a woman, right, there's still a law of polarity, right? I'm going to lead with my masculinity. And because I am a leading masculine man, I attract feminine women. Right? But my masculinity will penetrate her and will open her up more in her femininity. Her femininity will flirt with me and will open more of my masculinity up. Right? So we have this divine dance going on. But in all of that, right, she'll be able to honor my masculinity because she's cultivated her own. The same way I'll be able to honor and protect her femininity because I have cultivated and I protect my own. Right? If I have no concept, no understanding of feminine energy, well then I might go into situations, there's certain things women are going to do that will just frustrate you for no fucking reason. I always say, women will test you consciously and subconsciously. Most women walk around testing men, don't even understand why, because they don't understand their feminine energy. But if you understand your own feminine energy, you understand that your own feminine energy tests you all the time. You test yourself all the time to make sure that you're safe. How? The moment that you make a decision that you want to live life in a disciplined way, I want to wake up at 5 a.m., 6 a.m. What does your feminine energy do the night before? It might want to have fun. It might want to stay up later. It's in the moment. Yeah, we have that in the future, but right now. So you discipline your feminine energy, right? You give your feminine energy time and places to thrive, understanding that you can be more in the moment if you don't have a lot of things on your mind. You can be more in the moment. You can allow your feminine energy to flow more when you protect it, the same way that you protect a woman, right? The same way that by you guarding her, okay, and taking some of the masculine burden off of her, whether we talk about bills or we talk about putting her in a safe neighborhood, a nice place, right, getting her a nice car, whatever you might think that is, okay, doing those things acts as a container around her feminine energy. It's the same way that your masculinity is a container around your feminine energy. So the more that you cultivate your feminine energy, you can understand how to protect a woman's feminine energy. It's all the same, bro. If you want to learn about everything, learn about anything. If you want to learn about anything, learn about everything. Life is multidimensional. Life is fractal. Everything relates to everything. Okay? Next, at the same time, right? We talked about our feminine energy, how we suppressed it. Now let's also talk about how the world morphs our masculine energy. At the same time, we silence the divine masculine within. Okay? Not the toxic, inflated image of dominance we were sold, but the true masculine. Your true masculine energy is clear. It is grounded. It is protective, and it is deeply present. It is deeply present, deeply logical, deeply protective, deeply grounded, deeply clear, deeply balanced. It's not dominating, right? Let's give an example. What is the difference between unbalanced masculine energy and balanced masculine energy? Well, it's the difference between a predator and a protector. It's the difference between a tyrant and a protector, a dictator and a protector, right? One is unbalanced, one is balanced. Are you a good man if you can simply provide, but if somebody comes in and threatens the lives of your family, you cannot do anything? Maybe, but you're not a balanced man, right? You're a balanced man if you can protect your family, if you can also provide for them, all right? But you're also a balanced man when we talk about all those aspects are balanced as well. What does provide mean? It doesn't mean dominating, okay? And then what is provision? It's not just monetary. Your presence is provision. Like I'll constantly say, man, the more feminine a woman is, the more she's going to crave your presence. Everything else might seem real good in the beginning. It might be real enticing to her in the beginning, right? The money and the gifts and the trips. But what a true feminine woman will crave over time is presence. And so your masculinity is going to have to balance presence with providing. Providing and presence go hand in hand. What else? Okay, protection. Okay, if you are just, we all have the capacity for violence. This is what I talked about yesterday. When it's two men and we're having a debate or a conversation, there's an unspoken rule of what lines not to cross. Because if you cross a line, it could be violent. Someone could lose their life, someone could lose their freedom. Okay? We inherently know that. But this is why, if you've ever dealt with a woman who comes to you in a masculine way, right? She doesn't understand her power. And she's not able to talk to you in a certain way. And she becomes very combative. The rules of that game are rigged. Because you have no choice. You have no choice but to just remove yourself from the situation. Because if a man crosses the line with you in his masculine energy, what would you do, right? You would defend yourself, maybe physically. You can't do that with a woman. The world says, bro, you're not a real man if you hit a woman. And I'm not condoning that, but you can't do it. Especially if it's a woman you love or respect, you're not going to do that, okay? Now, you can't just continue arguing with her because then what does the world say, right? Oh, well, you shouldn't be in your feelings. You're sassy, right? So if you're masculine and you are leading and you are with a woman that's leading in her masculine, the game is rigged. You can't even act to your nature anymore. Okay? Or if you walk away, what do they say? Right? Oh, you should just take it. You should be a man. You should just be stone cold. If somebody can just push your buttons, then you should do nothing. Okay? So when we understand polarity, we don't put ourselves in these situations. Okay? So if I understand my polarity as a masculine leading man, I don't want and I don't attract masculine leading women. Okay? Now let's talk about protecting. There is an innate desire that you have for violence as a man. It's the warrior energy of the masculine within you. Okay. Now, if you just let that violence run wild, you're a tyrant, you're a predator. Okay. People call you crazy. But if you can hone that violence, maybe you learn a skill, you learn martial arts, you learn boxing, and now you can actually use that only in a time where it's needed. If somebody threatens your family, okay, now you are balanced. All right? Masculinity is very, very balanced. All right. So we confuse control with strength. Okay? You should have no desire to control anyone when you're walking in your masculine. Right? People can choose to be in your life or not. Right? Control is not strength. Okay? Control is rooted in fear. The desire, the need to control is rooted in fear. It's rooted in the fear that you're not enough. I have to control you. You need to do these things. It's a lack mindset. Especially, let's talk about it from a relationship perspective, because this is going to make a little bit more sense. You meet a woman and you want to control her. What you're really communicating is there could be thousands and millions and billions of women out there, but you can't get anyone that respects you enough. You can't get anyone. Your standards, you don't really have standards. You just met somebody and you're hoping that they will change to validate you. You're not willing to hold your standards so firmly, right, in such strength that you wait until you find the right woman. You're not walking in your divinity. The moment that you understand that your divinity is not something that you just throw around willy-nilly, and it's something that people have to earn, women have to earn, the moment that you start looking at yourself as divine, you say, okay, what are all the things that a woman gets from me when I enter a relationship with her? Okay, and you start to come into that inner knowing of who you are, you won't settle for less. Okay? But when you walk around trying to control people, you have to, look, these are my standards. This is what I want you to do. They're not even a match to that. They haven't even signed up for that shit. But now you're trying to change them and control them. You're not walking in your divinity. Okay? So we confuse control with strength. We confuse suppression with mastery. Most men walk around suppressing the hell out of their emotions. That's why you go into a situation with a woman, and all of a sudden, the first time you think, all right, I got this woman, now I can deal with her, I can open up to her emotionally, you open up way too damn much. Then that burns you, and then you go back to suppressing again. Okay? Because you don't use your woman as an emotional dump, right? You regulate your own emotions. This can only come with self-knowledge. You go within yourself. You turn that 12-pack of emotions, the happy, mad, hungry, sleepy, angry, you turn it into the 128-pack, the 256-pack. Why am I angry? Because this thing touched me. Why did it touch me? Well, because it reminded me of something in my past. Why did it remind me of something in my past? Right? You go through these things, and like I always say, man, when I was in tech, we used to do what's called a root cause analysis, called the 5 whys. Why do you feel a certain way? Okay. What do you feel right now? Let's start with that. Angry. Why? Because of this. Why? Well, because of this. Why? If you cannot answer again, or by the time you typically get to the 5th why, that's around where the root cause is, and that's where the work begins. Okay? But suppression is not mastery. It's never about suppressing. And like I said, man, you want to learn about anything, learn about everything. You want to learn about everything, learn about anything. Life is multidimensional. What do we talk about when we talk about manifesting? Okay, if you want the life that you desire, it is never about suppressing your emotions. Your emotions are literally just manifestations of what you're seeing, of what you're experiencing right now. Okay? Your emotions they're not something for you to suppress. They're teachers. This situation is presenting itself to you, and it's showing you that you're remembering who you are incorrectly. That's why you feel so negatively. And when you feel this negative emotion, what happens when you experience something that you do not want? Logically, you get clarity on what you do want. So the things that you don't want are just stimulus. They're stimuli pushing you to what you do want. And when you see what you do want, when you get clarity of what you do want in your mind, okay, the moment you have a desire, it's the divine desiring it through you. Okay? So the moment you desire, you have. To desire and to have are the same thing. I desire it, I have it, I am it. I accept it, and I get a glimpse in that desire, in that having, of who I really am. And when I see who I really am, I realize, shit, I'm reacting to this situation because I'm forgetting who I am. I'm relating to this situation as if this situation is a representation of me. But this situation is just a representation of who I've been remembering myself to be incorrectly. That's it. And so when I remember myself correctly, I no longer relate to this situation. And boom, I walk with faith, not by sight. And I allow life in every moment to unfold beautifully and divinely to where I need to be. Magical breakdown. Okay? And so what remains is a fragmented soul chasing reflection after reflection. All right. So when we confuse control with strength, when we confuse suppression with mastery, what remains of us in this wounded masculine state is we are a fragmented soul chasing reflection after reflection, right? Because a woman is a reflection. We always say that your woman is your mirror. What does that mean? Women have developed this beautiful divine gift over time of being this mirror, showing you exactly what you need to see. All right. This is even why when you are in this state of lack and desperation at the end of a relationship, you can look at that woman and she can just look ice cold towards you. And we tend to take it personally, as we should, right? Because it's a reflection of us. It's showing us our shortcomings, right? But women are these beautiful mirrors. So we're walking around chasing the reflection, chasing the mirror, hoping that we'll see something in the mirror that will make us whole. Okay? Hoping to find wholeness in someone else. But no woman, none of them, no matter how radiant, no matter how divine, no matter how beautiful, no matter how ideal you believe she is, no woman can heal the disowned parts of you. So that feminine energy you've been suppressing, if you do not cultivate it, you can't connect with a woman emotionally. You can't connect with a woman intuitively. You can't sit in the stillness with a woman, right? If you don't heal these wounded parts of you, these dissolved parts of you, these disowned parts of you, these parts of you that the world has told you to throw away, it's going to be very difficult to find a woman, all right? So she cannot heal the disowned parts of you. Then what can she do? She can reveal them to you, okay? She can only reveal them. So the ache you feel is not a hunger for another person. The heartbreak you feel, the desire you have for some woman, this is not a hunger for another person at all. This is a longing to come home to yourself, to reunite the lost lovers within. Like I said in the beginning, if you want to be married in the external world, you have to marry the masculine and feminine energies within you first. You have to marry them first, okay? The sacred union does not begin in the bedroom. It begins in the temple of your own soul, okay? The sacred union begins within until the bride and the bridegroom, the masculine, the feminine, the positive, negative, the yin, the yang, the Christ, the Sophia, whatever you want to call them, until they meet in your soul, you will only chase reflections around. You will constantly look for people that can complete you. They never can. They never will. Two half-assed versions of people cannot make a whole. They just make two more half-assed versions of people. Okay? Next up, inner alchemy of divine union. In the ancient Hermetic teachings, it is said, as within, so without, as above, so below. Kingdom of God is within you. However you want to take it. Whether you want to go down the spiritual path, you want to go in the mystical teachings, however you want to take it. All right? Alchemy is not merely about gold. It's about wholeness, turning base metals into gold. Okay? It's about wholeness. The great work is the marriage of opposites. We see this all through nature. Nature shows you. The world shows us, okay? The sun and the moon, the masculine and feminine, okay? Fire and water, the masculine and feminine, positive, negative, yin and yang. We see these examples, Shiva and Shakti. However you want to slice it, dice it, break it down, right? It is all in front of us, trying to show us. And one of the myths that we fall into is we believe that these things are separate. Okay, when we start talking about masculine and feminine energy, we believe that they're separate, but no, you have masculine and feminine within you. Shiva and Shakti, these are not separate. Okay, we talk about them from a separate way because that's how we can understand it. But these energies are not separate. They're complementary aspects of the same energy, of the same force. Masculine and feminine are not separate. You're not just feminine, like I'm not just masculine and walking into a woman who's just feminine. Okay? These two aspects are the same. They're all within us. And the more I can heal my feminine, the more I become the divine masculine for that woman. The more that she heals her masculine, right? We talk about these things. We have different names for them. We talk about them all the time. The father wound, the mother wound. It's healing the divine feminine, healing the divine masculine within you. This is all this is. We just try to come up with all these terms, this terminology. Right? But you have feminine energy, you have masculine energy. And a lot of us are not just walking around with a healed part of the masculine or the feminine. A lot of people are walking around with healed or unhealed parts of both. Okay, a lot of us are not walking in the fullness of our masculinity or our femininity. Okay. And the moment you start to do this and you start to flow, you'll realize that your life starts to click together like a puzzle. It's like, damn, I started healing my masculine. All of a sudden, my relationship with my feminine got better because now I can cultivate my feminine energy in the safety of my masculinity. I'll go back to that. I'm going to give you one more example of this, all right? So the same way that my masculinity acts as a container and protects a woman's femininity is the same way that my masculinity should protect me. Right? It should protect my own femininity. Meaning, I don't want to give the same example. Fuck it, I'll give the same example. All right, so if I have a goal that I need to execute discipline to achieve, okay? And so I know I have to wake up tomorrow at a certain time. I have to go to a certain event, so I have to be ready at a certain time. What this means is that I have set this boundary. I have built the framework of this house, all right? And now I have to walk into it. The feminine within me wants to operate in the present moment. And so, yes, this, okay. And so, yes, this meeting sounds good to have. This meeting sounds great to go to. I'm gonna go do that. But right now, I feel like going out. Right now, I feel like, I know I have that work that I have to finish by tomorrow, but I kind of rather just chill and take a nap right now. Right? Your feminine energy wants to be very present. It wants to flow with whatever feels good right now. And so the more I can build the boundaries of my discipline in my life, the more I can start cultivating my feminine energy and giving it places to flow. Okay? The more that I can protect my woman by taking away some of the quote unquote masculine responsibilities of building, of always being in a forward thinking place, right? The more I can allow her feminine energy to flow within the relationship, which benefits me and her. Okay? So it's always understanding. It is always understanding the polarity, how energy flows, that helps us be better in our relationships and also better with ourselves. Because everything is just a reflection of myself. Okay? So in your psyche, these polarities are not enemies. They are lovers longing to reunite. Okay, in your psyche, these polarities are not enemies. They are lovers longing to reunite. The sacred masculine is clarity, purpose, presence, and protection. And the sacred feminine is intuition, surrender, creation, and flow. Okay? To heal, you must let the king rise in integrity and let the queen return from exile, no longer shamed for her emotion or mystery. Right? The divine feminine is a mysterious, emotional being. Right? The divine masculine is a being of integrity and presence and discipline. Okay? So, biblical archetypes. Adam and Eve reimagined. So in Genesis, Adam says of Eve, "This is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh." Of course, I'm gonna look at this from a metaphorical perspective. We're not gonna go into it like a history book, all right? We're gonna look at this from a metaphorical perspective. So, this is now bone of my bones and flesh of my flesh. Before Eve was created from his rib, she already existed within him. A light bulb should have went off, right? Before Eve was created from his rib, she already existed within him. So how the story goes is, Adam was doing a good job. He was given purpose. Most High was like, oh, he's lonely. Let me take out a rib and put him there. Well, the Old Testament God said, let me take out a rib and make a woman for him. All right. So if we look at this from a purely metaphysical perspective, all right, the woman of your dreams is already within you, waiting for you to love her. This is the story. We did a lecture 2 days ago on Pygmalion, this Greek mythology, Pygmalion and Galatea. The story of this, in a very summarized way, is that Pygmalion was a gentleman. He was an artist. He was disgusted with women in the world. He went out and said, all of these women are vain. They're of no use to me. They're no good. Right? And instead of getting bitter like most people do in our society today when they say men ain't shit, women ain't shit, right? And they just completely check out. And because of that, they continue to attract the same people because they haven't learned a lesson. And because they haven't learned a lesson, they haven't raised their vibration, so they're still in the same playing field. Okay? Pygmalion, what he did was he went home and he said, I'm not dealing with any of these women. I'm going to go into my imagination and make a divine counterpart for myself. So because he received clarity from all the things he did not want, did not like, which is the only reason that you experience things you don't like, is to give you clarity. It's not for you to sit there and vent and sit there and be upset. It is to give you clarity on what you do want. And to desire means to have. To have means to be. Right? Another word for to be is I am. Your I am awareness, right? So the moment that you have something, you can declare. The moment that you desire something, you can declare that you have it. You can declare that you are it. Okay? So Pygmalion had this desire for his woman, and since he had this desire, he went into the mental workshop and he started creating her in his mind. He made her perfect. And how this manifests in Greek mythology is that it manifests as him actually making a sculpture of her. The same way that if you really want something, what do they tell you to do? Write it down, right? They tell you to write it down, right? Jim Carrey has a famous story where he actually wrote a check to himself off of his desire. So Pygmalion had this desire in his mind, took it, and created a sculpture of this woman. He didn't carry the sculpture around with him all the time, but he when he was home, right, he focused on this. He loved this being that he had created. Not in a creepy way. I'm not saying go get a blow-up doll, right? But he loved this being that he created. And he loved it so much. Okay, the moment that you love, also that's another desire, another prayer. You have it. So he has already had this thing, and he started walking in faith. And he asked the goddess Aphrodite to have a woman like her. Okay, he didn't say I need this exact one. He said I just want a woman like her, because the God within you already knows what you want. Matter of fact, let's go on and dive in this story a little bit more, because there's so many things I'm just skimming over, right? Because the story of Pygmalion and Galatea is really a masterclass on how to get the shit that you want in your life, man. So he asked Aphrodite, okay, make something similar for me, right? Understanding that your higher self, your soul, the God within you, the Most High, whatever you want to think. If you think God's out there, God's within you, whatever you want to think, this God understands what you want better than you do. And then you also have to think that anything that you can imagine is only the floor. It's the worst case scenario. If you start thinking about the worst possible outcome for a scenario in your life, is it ever worse? No. No. It always turns out better. Oh, it wasn't as bad as I expected. Okay. Now, if you start thinking of the best case scenario, it's always better. So your higher self, the God within you, does not operate in bare minimum. It doesn't operate in bare minimum. The template, your desire, your imagination is just a template, and it's filled in with all these other things that you don't even know you want yet. This is why the more that we can study these stories and see how these things happen in our life, the more that we can walk with faith. Knowing that the only thing that I have to control is my own mind. That's it. Right? I can't control anybody else. But I can control my own mind. And as a byproduct, everybody else falls in line. Okay? So because Pygmalion went into his imagination and he dreamed his dream woman, Aphrodite said, okay, I'm not just going to give you one like her. I'm going to give you the perfect one for you. I'm going to actually make your statue come to life. So your vision is already real. It already exists in some reality. And so by that means it must exist here as well. All right? And so then his woman was made manifest. Okay. So she was already existing within him. So before Eve was created from his rib, she already existed within him. Eve was not just formed from flesh. She was drawn out of what was already present. Your reality, okay? Let's really think about this metaphysically, okay? Don't think about it logically. Drop the fucking logic, okay? Everything is within you already. Everything that you see is an outpicturing of what is already within you. The reason why Eve was made manifest is because she already existed in Adam. This is simply a story about manifestation. This part, this little portion, okay? Simply a story of manifestation. As within, so without. It has to exist within you before it can exist outside of you. Okay, so the feminine is not separate from man, but hidden within him, waiting to be honored. So let's talk about something else. Let's talk about the fall. The fall in Eden, okay, was not just disobedience. It was the externalization of inner polarity. The externalization of inner polarity. Instead of union, blame was born. Okay, instead of balance, domination took root. So to return to Eden, to return to that sacred divine counterpart, that sacred union of the divine masculine and the divine feminine, okay, is to no longer fear the serpent of wisdom or the knowledge of your own divine nature. Right? It's understanding that nothing outside of you can give you more. The only thing that you can do to change your circumstance is to go within you and create the circumstance that you want and allow it to be outpictured, right? So if you want a divine relationship with a woman, you have to cultivate the feminine energy within you. You have to create a divine relationship with your feminine energy. Ladies, if you want a divine relationship with a man, you're going to have to cultivate a divine relationship with your inner masculine energy. Point blank, period. Until then, you will be outside of the Garden of Eden. You'll be outside of that divine union. Okay? So, part 3, she is the mirror, reflections of your shadow and soul. When a woman triggers you, when her love feels too much or not enough, it is not about her. Okay? It's about what you haven't made peace with inside yourself. I'm not talking about just any woman. Okay? I'm talking about the woman that you actually love. Let's not get this confused. Okay? When the woman that you are truly just loving, okay, when her love feels too much or not enough, okay, it's not about her. It's about what you haven't made peace with inside yourself. So 1 Corinthians 13:12, for now we see through a glass darkly. We're just going to focus on that part. The full version is, for now we see through a glass darkly, but then face to face, then face to face. And now I know in part, but then shall I know even as also I am known. Sounds kind of fucking confusing. But the first part, for now we see through a glass darkly. Let's break down what that means. This line speaks to the human condition, our partial vision. Okay, for now we see through a glass darkly. This line speaks to the human condition, our partial vision, our spiritual blindness, and our limited understanding of truth, love, and self. Most people have very little comprehension of love and very little comprehension of self, right? So in ancient times, mirrors were not made of clear glass like today, but of polished metal, offering a dim, distorted reflection. Paul is saying that in our current state, we don't see reality clearly. We see through layers, right? Just like back in the day, they didn't have clear glass. Okay. Today, when we are looking at reality, we do not see clearly. We see through layers. Layers of what? Illusion, ego, fear, unhealed wounds. Right? We think we're seeing the world or others as they truly are. Our ego makes us think that we're seeing everybody as they are. This motherfucker is annoying. This motherfucker is a cheater. But we are just seeing projections of our own unresolved stories. Everything is a byproduct, is a manifestation of my belief. So everything is our fault. Everything that happens to us is our fault. Right? And I do get a lot of pushback for that until we really start breaking it down, right? So yes, the woman that cheated on you, the man that cheated on you is your fault. How? A cheater is a cheater. Sure. Right? At some point in time, you believe that they were cheating and it was made manifest. And you might say, well, no, I didn't. I never did. It came out the blue. Well, you still identify. You identify as someone who can be cheated on. Therefore, they're only playing their role in your story. If you believe that you are someone who can be cheated on, if that is a belief that serves you, then you will be, right? And now you can say, well, no. That's just how the world is. What I always say to y'all, you can argue for your own limitations and you can let other people argue for their own limitations, but I won't join you in arguing. The moment that you start to take responsibility, that you start taking accountability for everything that happens in your life is the moment that you actually become the operant power in your life. You were given dominion over all of this, right? But it's easy for us to believe that someone else will save us. Someone else will heal our perspective of love. They won't. Some pastor will heal my faith. He won't. Right? Some man will descend from the sky and save me. They won't. When the Pharisees asked Jesus when the kingdom of heaven will return, when he will return, what did he say? It's not something that you can see. It is within you. The kingdom of heaven is within you. No one will say, lo here or lo there, look here or lo there, for the kingdom of God is within you. It's not something that you can see. So people are waiting in vain for something to come. And even if something did descend, it's not going to be what you think it is. When things start descending from the heavens, it's not going to be what you think it is. Okay? So the kingdom of God is within you. Everything that you need is within you. There's no one that's coming to save you, and that's fine because you have everything within you already to save yourself. This is your divinity. Okay? Let other people argue for their limitations. Okay? You argue for your power. You constantly go to battle with yourself about your power and your divinity day after day, and you watch how the world begins to prove you correctly. The world will continue to prove you correctly that you are much more powerful and much more divine than you have been giving yourself credit to. And you will see that the more that you wake up to it, you will say, damn, no wonder the world wants everybody blind and dumb and stupid. Because the more blind and dumb and stupid everyone is, the more the society can just function. But when I realize I don't have to work for money, I can just be money and get it. You telling me all my relationships can be harmonious? Things can just fall into my lap? Life, I can have everything that I want? This concept of the American dream that they drilled in my mind was just a lie? It's just all in limitation? Wait till the world begins to prove you right. When your soul, when your higher self begins to say, yes, hell yeah, you want more of that? Me too. When you start looking at your desires as sacred, as promises, watch how the world changes for you. And watch how then it won't matter what other people tell you. They'll tell you all kinds of shit that's wrong. You can't have that. That's wrong. That's an ego desire. Okay. You can't have it. Shit, I can have whatever. You can speak to your limitations, but not mine. All right? I know I always do that. I always take a little side quest because that's something that I do feel very passionate about, man. Right? It's accountability. Accountability is key. The moment that we become accountable for everything in our life is the moment that everything begins to change, not a moment before. Okay? It begins to change right on time. Okay, the kingdom of God is within you. What does the book of Thomas say? When Jesus is talking to his disciples and they're having their real conversations, he says, you know what? The kingdom of God is within you. If someone told you that the kingdom of God is above you, that means the birds will get there before you. Right? If somebody said that it was below you, that means somebody else could get there before you. But no one can get there before you because the kingdom of God is within you. There's nowhere to go. There's nowhere to seek. Well, seek ye first the kingdom of God means go within you. There is nothing outside of you. Everything outside of you started within you. Everything. 100% of it. 100% of it. Okay, so let's go through this second part. So for now, we see through a glass darkly. Okay, we think we're seeing the world or others as they are, but in truth, we're only seeing the projections of our own unresolved stories. These things are telling you that you're remembering yourself incorrectly. You're going through this shit because you continue to remember who you are incorrectly. Now remember correctly by focusing on the desire that this situation has given to you. You are triggered for a fucking reason. Your triggers are divine. Your triggers are communication from the Most High. You get triggered 3-4 times. And instead of you saying, oh, this is a synchronicity, because the universe, God works in patterns, you say, oh, there's something wrong with that person. But the moment that you see the same number on a license plate, you can't wait to take a picture and upload it. Do the same thing when you see these things. You should be jumping for joy when you, oh man, same thing happened twice. What would I want instead? Oh shit, I have that desire. To desire means I have it. And so because I have it, now I'm remembering who I am correctly. I'm only experiencing this because I continue to remember who I am incorrectly. Huh? So what we call clarity is often just a reflection of our own inner distortion. Okay? In the context of love and relationship, this verse reveals a deeper mystical truth. We often approach our partners not as they are, but as mirrors for what we cannot see within ourselves. We try to use other people as scapegoats for our own issues that we have to resolve. We mistake emotional triggers, synchronicities. A trigger is a synchronicity. A trigger is a synchronicity trying to point you down a path. Start looking up your triggers. The same way if you see 333, you're going to get on Google and you're going to start looking all through the shit for it. What does this mean? Money? Love? But if somebody triggers you 3 times, what the hell does that mean? It means you've remembered who you are incorrectly 3 times. Okay? So we often approach our partners not as they are, but as mirrors for what we cannot see within ourselves. We mistake emotional triggers for flaws in them when they're often signs of fragmentation in us. We believe rejection is personal. When it's really a reflection of our own disconnection from the divine within. How could you ever reject me when I have a connection to the only thing that matters, which is source? No one outside of me is even real. It wouldn't exist if my mind didn't allow you to. Okay? The only thing real is the God within me. And through the God within me, everything outside of me is projected. Okay? So what I believe is rejection is me feeling my own disconnection. How does that make sense? Because you can still probably think like, what do you mean? Rejection from somebody is me having disconnection from God. No, I have faith in God. Well, no, you don't. Because if you truly believe that everything was purposeful and everything in your life was a synchronicity, then you will understand that you can't be rejected. You can be redirected, but you can't be rejected. That would make no sense. You're remembering who you are incorrectly. Okay? So the mirror is dark because the soul has yet to be fully illumined. But the promise hidden in this verse is powerful. One day we will see face to face. One day the veil will be lifted, not just between us and God, but between us and ourselves, which is the same thing. You are God. Argue for your own limitations, right? But between us and ourselves. And only then can we truly see another in love without fear, projection, or illusion. Only then can we truly see another in love without fear, projection, or illusion. Only if I know who I am. Only if I reach what I always say is the highest level of self-actualization. I am God. You are God. We are all God, experiencing God. The Son, we are all the Son of mankind. We are all the sons and daughters of God. We are perspectives of God, experiencing God from different fucking perspectives. Okay? And only until I come into that high level of self-actualization can I truly see another in love without fear, projection, or illusion. Without any kind of fear, projection, or illusion, I can see you as who you are because I see me as who I am. And I understand that there are no mistakes. There's no loss in the kingdom of God that is within me. There's no loss in the kingdom of heaven. And the kingdom of heaven is within me. Okay? So, the divine feminine, right? She shows you where the mother wound still bleeds. That projection, that woman in front of you that's rejecting you, she shows you where the mother wound still bleeds. She shows you where you still fear vulnerability as weakness. She's showing you this shit. She's calling the God out of you. Everybody that rejects you, they're calling the God out of you. You're scared to show your emotions. This person is trying to call the God out of you. She reflects your unhealed relationship with the feminine within. So when you feel rejected, ask, what part of me am I still rejecting? When you feel smothered, ask, what part of me am I afraid to receive? The woman before you was a sacred mirror, polished by spirit, held by God to reveal the unfinished business within you. What a divine way to look at this. What a divine way to look at this. The market is tanking. Jesus. Damn, Jerome Powell. All right, so mystical union, the Song of Songs, and the inner beloved. So Song of Solomon 6:3. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. Okay, this is not merely about a lover. You got the puzzle piece. All right. So I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. Song of Solomon 6:3. This is not merely about a lover. Okay. I am my beloved's, and my beloved is mine. This is the soul speaking to the divine within and beyond. The mystics knew this well. Saint Teresa called Christ her heavenly spouse. Okay. Rumi spoke of union with the beloved as a dance beyond form. He'll constantly say, right, the interaction between that divine masculine and divine feminine within you, it is a dance. It's a beautiful dance. Okay. You will not fully see her until you meet the feminine within you. You can't meet a woman fully until you fully meet that feminine energy within you. You will not fully be with her until your masculine stands in truth and not trauma. Okay. So the journey to the soulmate connection, to the divine counterpart, to the twin, whatever you want to label it, right? I mean, these are all different things, but whatever you want to label it, all of these are journeys within. They're not journeys outside of you. Okay. So the inner marriage precedes the outer one. Before I can meet the divine counterpart, I have to meet the divine counterpart within myself. And only when the soul is unified can divine partnership manifest in wholeness. Right? Oh, and this text, so this is just a Google Doc that I put together. So if you want to actually see the text is on YouTube. But, and I'm doing all these live on TikTok and YouTube. So they never leave. You can always jump on YouTube and download the document or see it. But yeah, appreciate that question, brother. So practices for inner union. Okay, practices for inner union. And these are just some things that you can do with yourself to actually work on the union between the divine masculine within you and the divine feminine within you. Number one is mirror work. Okay, look into your own eyes and ask, where have I abandoned myself? And allow yourself to speak to you. This is actually a very enlightening experience. right? Because most of us don't truly look at ourselves in the eyes much. When we're in the mirror, we're looking at flaws. We're looking at things we don't like on ourselves. But the moment that you let down your guard and you look at yourself as if you are looking at yourself, as if you're looking at the only person that's on this journey of life with you. Because honestly, you'll never meet someone who knows you like you. You're the only person who has access to all of your thoughts. You're the only person who has access to everything that you've went through. You're the only person that was crying on the floor by yourself, crying in the car by yourself. It was just you. Nobody else was there. Right? But so often we abandon that there's someone there with us. You're going through these experiences with you. And oftentimes, man, the intimacy, the vulnerability, the connection that you want with someone else, you really want it with yourself. You really want yourself. You really want to look at yourself and tell yourself and acknowledge that we've been through bullshit and now we have come out the other side. You really want yourself to tell you that you're proud of you. So look yourself in the eyes and ask, where have I abandoned myself? You'd be surprised the feelings that come up. Trust the feelings that come up. Express the feelings that come up. Confront the feelings that come up. Don't shy away from them. The same way that you would want someone to sit in vulnerability with you when you're telling them these are all the ways that you've fallen short for me, is the same way that you want yourself to do it. So give yourself that grace. And you'll see, as within, so without, right? The moment you can start doing this with yourself, you can actually, you'll actually attract other people. Other people will be outpictured that can do this for you, okay? Polarity journaling. This is a very interesting one, all right? So polarity journaling. If y'all have ever seen the show Severance, basically Severance is about these people who have went through, I guess, traumatic experiences. Some have, some haven't. But they have this option, they have this experiment that they're able to undergo where they walk into a building and they become severed. And what severed means is that the person that they are on the outside of the building has their own set of memories, goes through life, experiences life, just normally. But the moment they walk into the building, they're severed. So who they were outside of the building, they have no recollection of that person, no memory of that person. All right, and so who they are inside, they have their own memories, their own experiences. Okay, so it's as if there's two different people. It's one person, but the moment they walk into a building, it becomes a different person. This person only knows life within the building, and the person outside only knows life outside of the building. Okay, so in one day, and then your inner feminine the next, and let them converse. It doesn't have to be one day. It could be moment by moment. From your inner masculine, the part of you that wants to be disciplined and like structure and presence, write a letter to yourself from that personality. And then read that and respond to it from the feminine part of you, the part of you that wants to be in the present moment, that wants to enjoy the right now. Let them converse. See how you can allow the feminine to function more. Let your inner feminine, your inner emotions, right? Let them tell your inner masculine all the ways that it's betrayed her. Let it tell your inner masculine all the ways it doesn't feel safe, all the ways it feels like you've just been suppressing me. And I don't even really know what all these feelings mean. Okay? And then allow your inner masculine to say, okay, well, shoot, I'm going to allow you to express these feelings. I'm going to give you time per day to express these feelings. That's what we're going to do. Then allow your inner masculine to say, well, sometimes it's like we're trying to do things and you're just pulling me too hard. Right? So have this conversation between these two aspects of yourself. It should be very healing. Very, very healing. Okay? So sacred scripture reading. Some good scriptures that talk about polarity, right? It's, Book of Genesis, Song of Songs, or Song of Solomon, however you want to call it. And then Proverbs. And Proverbs, of course, you can read Proverbs from like a money perspective or however you want to read it, but it's very, when you meditate on it, when you really start thinking of it from masculine and feminine dynamic, you get a lot of insight. What you realize about a lot of these scriptures is that, or Greek mythology, whatever you want, what you'll realize is that what you are worried about, you will gain insight on that thing based on scriptures. Because we have to think about how our ancestors told stories or passed down information. If you don't have books, and you don't have like tablets and things, How would you pass down information? Well, you would create a story. You would create a story with so many layers that's so profound that you could teach the younger generation this story and it could stick with them. And then when they memorize the story, now you can use that story and you can talk about different aspects, different dimensions of wisdom within this story. So we'll see that, yeah, this might be polarizing, but a lot of things in the Bible, these are stories that are passed down, right? Now, because of the collective consciousness, these things are quote unquote true in the past, okay? But whether they're true or not, there are stories meant to pass wisdom. And of course, you know, we had the Council of Nicaea that rewrote a whole bunch of shit and aligned it with kind of Rome, which is very interesting when you truly think about it, right? You know, the Romans, the Pharisees were who Jesus was against. Then they killed him. And then they took his work and they reorganized it to align with the Roman Catholic Church. And then they pushed it out, right? So it's very interesting. But when you look at all of these stories, whether it's stories of mysticism, stories in the Bible, stories of mythology, right? What you see is it was our ancestors' way of passing down very complex life knowledge. So you're going to get wisdom of relationships, wisdom of spirituality. You're going to get wisdom of money, wisdom of prosperity, wisdom of how to do self-work, to heal the inner child. You're going to get all these things within all these stories because this was the divine way for them to pass stories and pass informations down. You feel me? So now that it's just a little drop of knowledge that I thought was interesting. So the next one, number 4, emotional integration. Okay, so emotional integration. Don't escape emotion, court it. Like we talked about earlier in the lecture, with the masculine energy, we are taught that suppression, we mistake suppression for mastery. If there's one thing I'm very consistent on is you don't suppress anything. Life is not to be suppressed. Emotions are not to be suppressed, right? So don't escape it, court it. Invite it to sit at your table. Invite the emotion in, whatever you're feeling, and sit with it. When you feel uncomfortable because you're going through a breakup or money's funny, can you actually sit with yourself in that feeling? Can you sit down in your living room, in your bedroom, on a couch, and can you invite that emotion in and gain wisdom from that emotion and see what that emotion is trying to teach you? Right. Here is the paradox with that is that we often will have issues with other people. And when we have those issues, we want to confront those people and we want to tell them all the ways that they've hurt us. And we expect them to sit through the discomfort of that emotional unburdening. But when it comes to ourselves, a lot of us struggle to do that. We talk about meditating, but oh man, like meditating is hard, you know. Well, 5 or 10 minutes and you want to get up and check the refrigerator or open up the text or start moving around, or you get frustrated, but you wonder why no one outside of you can sit with you. Because everyone outside of you is just a manifestation of what's going on within you. Okay? So as within, so without. Absolutely everything is related. The quicker that we understand is that we really know this, the quicker we can change our lives for the better. Everything is related. You can't sit with yourself, therefore no one can sit with you. Because what you're trying to do, what you're trying to get, is you're trying to get someone to compensate for what you cannot give to yourself. We think, intimacy, emotional connections, emotional intelligence means someone else has to sit down with. Well, the first part of it is you have to be able to sit down with yourself. So if you can't even sit down with yourself, if the moment you feel uncomfortable, you want to distract yourself with food, you want to distract yourself with liquor, with a beer, with social media, with the TV, with a book, with whatever, the first thing you want to do is take your mind off it. How will the external world react when when you have your emotions again, and you're trying to communicate them with someone else who's just a projection of you? Well, you can't do this with yourself, so they can't either. You cannot heal the inside by receiving validation from the external world. It never works. That's why if you don't heal that feminine within you, every woman is just going to be a mirror to the unhealed parts of you. And ladies, if you don't heal the masculine within you, every man is just going to be a reflection of the unhealed parts of you. You're going to go through a cycle. Most people are going through cycles. Most people go through cycles in every area of their life and wonder why nothing changes. You do the same shit every single day. You wake up at the same time Monday through Friday. You go to the same types of places on the weekend. You might travel once a quarter, right? You wake up hungover on the same days. You go to the gym at the same, you do everything the same. And then you pick the same types of food. You pick the same types of men. You have the same types of argument. You watch the same type of news channels, giving you the same type of information. And we wonder why things don't change. Right? If you want to change your life, you have to change. Okay? And so in order to change, what do you have to do? You have to be very conscious. You have to start learning yourself. You have to understand what needs to change. You have to understand what things are trying to point you to you. You're obviously experiencing these things because you're remembering who you are incorrectly. And you're constantly remembering who you are incorrectly over and over and over and over and over again. Okay, it's time to remember correctly. It's time to learn to use the things that you don't want as just pointers of awareness to the things that you do want. That's all they are. If you could start looking at things, one thing that could change your life tremendously, if you could just start looking at things you don't like as pointing you to what you actually want. If you could just start remembering that things that you do not like, you're only experiencing them because you're remembering who you are incorrectly. And so your soul is trying to push your ass. God damn, this hard-headed ass motherfucker won't. Please stop focusing on that. Stop remembering yourself wrong. You had this experience because we're trying to tell you what you actually want. And so the moment you remember what you actually want, now you remember yourself correctly. Oh. And so now this situation can fade away. You don't have to identify with anything in this reality. They're just lessons and projection. That's it. Just lessons and projections. Okay, that's it. Okay. So the last one is the shadow work. Right? And that's what I kind of just talked about. What patterns are repeating in love? Use patterns as synchronicities. Everything's a synchronicity. The same way that you Google what 222 means when you see it. He called me at 3:33. Let me see what it means. It's the same way that you should look at anything that triggers you as a synchronicity. Oh, it triggered me. What does it mean? Okay, trace them back. Heal the origin. All right. So in conclusion, when union is real, you'll recognize her. She may come wrapped in human form, or in a dream, or in the whisper of spirit, but you'll know her not by how she makes you feel, but by how whole you feel in her presence. Because she won't complete you. She will reveal that you are already whole, and you will no longer chase love. You will walk in love from the inside out. Everything in life is trying to teach you a lesson, a divine lesson, a fun lesson, a good lesson. It's trying to remember, it's trying to remind you of who you really are. All right, it's really trying to point you back to the truth of your divinity. Okay, step into it. All right, don't run from your truth. Okay, don't run from who you are. Okay, everything is for you. Nothing is against you. Everything is for you. It's all unfolding divinely. All right. Well, I appreciate you, man. I appreciate that. Truly. That means a lot. But I was trying to kind of ignore most of the comments. Let's see. If y'all have any questions, man, let's talk about it. Or any comments, disagreements, things that you want to talk about, don't want to talk about. We can talk about relationships. We can talk about whatever. And if not, should I end this with a prayer and some affirmations? It was about masculinity and femininity. How to heal the feminine within. Wow. It's a very broad. All right, let's talk about this. So the first part of healing is awareness. Okay, it's awareness. Matter of fact, let me just go back. Let's go back through it. All right, because I think these two paragraphs kind of summarize where to start, and then we can dive in this a little bit with a little bit more depth. So I talked about this from a male perspective, but let's try to talk about it just holistically without putting a gender on it. How to heal the actual feminine within, because most of us are walking around with feminine mother wounds and father wounds. Okay, so do I want to read that whole time? Yeah, just this one paragraph actually, but let me try to make it neutral. I can't make it neutral. I'll just read it. You think you're searching for her, the muse, the lover, the one who will finally quiet the ache in your chest and make you feel like a man. But what you're truly searching for is the forgotten half of yourself. All right, so the sacred counterpart you buried beneath performance, pride, and pain. So the first thing we have to do to heal the feminine within us is to understand what the feminine within us actually is. Okay? You have to understand what that feminine is. So we have to do our own research. And through that research, we can get more clarity. Let me actually go back to this last lecture I gave. All right, here we go. So let's talk about the difference between masculinity and femininity. And then let's dive into femininity. So the masculine gives structure, direction, and protection. And then the feminine offers creation, fluidity, and intuition. And I'm going to read both of these energies from the perspective of building a house. And now, as we know, you have masculine and feminine within you. We all have masculine and feminine within us. Okay, so which parts of both need to be healed? And then let's dive into the feminine. So the masculine is structure, direction, and protection. The masculine energy designs the blueprint. Okay, when you think of designing a blueprint, it makes the plans. It's very plan oriented, lays the foundation, and constructs the walls. It decides where the home will stand, how it will be built, and ensures it's strong enough to endure storms. This is direction, structure, and protection. Order applied to chaos. So feminine energy is creation, fluidity, and intuition. The feminine energy takes that structure and turns it into a home. She relaxes in it. Okay. She chooses the colors, creates warmth, and fills it with life, love, and emotional harmony. She knows intuitively where the plants go, what energy feels right, and how to make it nurturing. This is creation, flow, and filling. Soul breathed into form. So a lot of your feminine energy has to do with feeling, okay? Feeling in the moment. What feels right in the moment? What is good for this environment? Okay, I've created the structure. Now, how do I operate within the structure? Okay, it's not always just about building. When you think of building something that you want, you think of masculine energy. When you think about enjoying the fruits of your labor, you think of feminine energy. And so we all have both within us. No one is just 100% feminine or 100% masculine, right? It's just a divine energy that flows. We all have to be balanced. If you walk around with only feminine energy, you couldn't plan shit. You would have no structure at all in your life. If you just walked around with pure masculine energy, just presence and no emotion, you damn robot. Okay? So masculine and feminine energy are within both of us. Now, how do I actually heal my feminine energy? I have to look at how I feel about things and where have I been denying how I feel? Okay, how have I been denying how I feel about my relationship with my parents? How do I deny how I feel about where I am right now in life? How do I deny how I feel about what feels good to me right now? Okay, how do I deny my feelings? How do I deny my flow? How do I deny my creativity? Okay, am I scared to show myself to the world because, the fear of rejection? Okay, all these things that deal with feel, flow, intuition, creativity. Do I feel like I have a connection to the divine? Do I feel like I can rest in faith? That's a big one. Because when we talk about people operating in their feminine energy, especially when it comes to the spiritual world, right, what we'll constantly talk about is we'll talk about manifestation. We'll say most people, when it comes to manifesting, they want to step in masculine energy because that's how we're taught. We are taught that you make a goal, you start going after it, you start working towards it, and then you put together everything. But your plan never works out, right? A plan is never going to go 100% the way that you want it. What's going to happen is you're going to create a plan, and then you're going to have to let go, knowing that your plan is just a vehicle for God's will to be done. Okay? So as you start to embark on this plan, people are going to say no, because the divine is saying, no, you can't go there. You have to go a different route. People are going to need your help, because all of our plans are intertwined with one another. Okay, certain people, I'm going to have to help them. There's certain times when I have to be stuck because the spirit is still moving and getting things ready, right? Or I'm just not, or I have to learn a lesson. Okay, so our plans always tend to quote unquote fall apart, but they really fall together. Right? So how do you feel in the chaos of life? Are you able to flow through life? Right? Most people aren't. Most people really are deficient in feminine energy when it comes to faith. Right? Are you always attached to, do you bring your ego into every desire? If you have a desire, do you immediately begin to think of how it's going to, how it has to happen? Oh, I want this money, but shit, that means I need a better job and I need to apply for things. That means I have to get some more skills. I have to go, do you? Or are you able to say, because I have the desire, I have it, and now the path will flow to me. The next thing to do is this. And then I will watch the doors open and I will walk with faith as if I already have that thing. So the feminine wound comes in a lot of different areas. All these things are feminine energy. So you see, feminine energy is vast. Okay, it's very vast. But now, if you can start pinpointing where the feminine energy is in your life, where it's deficient, okay, or where it's wounded, where you're not allowing it to express itself, now you can actually start doing that 5 whys, that root cause analysis, and saying, okay, well, I don't feel like I can fall back in faith. Why? Should I just never have? Why? That's not a good answer. Well, I've always been told that I need to work hard and have the perfect plan, and the hardest worker gets it, and I have to work twice as hard as everybody else to get this desire. Why? Well, it's because that's how my parents raised me. Why? Because they had a difficult life. Okay, so it's a byproduct of my parents having a difficult life and implementing that programming. So it's ran deep. Okay, can I think of any examples in my life where I received exactly what I wanted or needed without working hard? Most of us can think of an example, especially when it comes to relationships, where it seemed like life was just good, and then all of a sudden you randomly met some person, and it was great. It might have fallen apart, but even in the falling apart, you just learned a lesson and you moved forward. Or the beginning of a relationship, all of a sudden you're so focused on that relationship and y'all are in bliss and the chemicals are going off in your mind and you're addicted to one another, and all of a sudden it's like, damn, life just gets better. The money was coming out of nowhere. We were going on trips. We were doing all these things, going on nice dates. It was just, everything was a flow. Life got better. Well, this is an aspect of faith. How come I can't take that and implement that mindset in my current life, right? Like I just said in this lecture earlier, right? Saint Teresa, or Mother Teresa, she said that what did she say? Christ was my heavenly spouse. Your higher self is your heavenly spouse. And a lot of times some of the mother wounds can actually be healed by falling into the knowing that you do have a husband within you that is providing for you and protecting you. It's that Christ within you. Okay? That I am awareness, that higher self, that consciousness. Right? So there's lots of aspects to healing the mother wound, but it comes down to, where is your feminine energy being made manifest in a way that's lacking in your life, and then starting to dive into the root causes of them. Right? Start diving into the root causes of those things. It's another way that I can put it. So I actually think that was a pretty good example. Since I try to push it too far, but I think that was a good example. Hopefully that helped. But, since the feminine wound is so individual to people, right? Like if I'm a man, right, I'm gonna have to start looking at how I relate to women. One of the biggest lessons that I'm gonna have with feminine energy in my life as a man, one of the biggest lessons is gonna be how I relate to women. Do I find myself saying all these women ain't shit? Well, that is, when you get to that point, your feminine energy is screaming at you. It's hollering at you, bruh. The same way with women, when you find yourself getting to a point where you say, oh, men ain't shit, your masculine energy is fucking screaming at you. It's like, damn, how many more lessons until you figure it out that you are everything, right? But, you know, your soul also feels like, shoot, we can do this forever. We can do it this lifetime, next lifetime. You got forever to learn. So if you want to be hard-headed, we'll just keep loving you unconditionally and sending these divine lessons to you, okay? See, how to trust and have faith more when you're in this state of anxiety. I think there was one before that. I'll read that one and then I'll get to that. Okay. How can you heal the synchronicity of someone repeatedly lying to you and abandoning you? Well, you have to stop abandoning yourself. So, meaning, people show up in our life and they do exactly what we allow them to do. Every single time. Right? I can put this in a worldly perspective and I can put this from a spiritual perspective. Let's start with the worldly perspective. All right? Because I'm always very careful when I talk about certain things because, yes, you can change anyone. You can change anyone because everyone is just a projection of you. So you can have whatever you want. But to be disciplined enough to do that, something that a lot of people struggle with. And it depends on how far along you are on that spiritual journey. So from a physical perspective, what is being communicated to me? If everything that shows up to me is God in disguise, what's being communicated to me if I'm constantly letting people lie to me? And I'm constantly letting people abandon me. They come in my life, they leave my life, I chase them down, they disappear, they come back a little bit later. Like, what is being communicated to me? So number one, do I lie to myself? Okay. Do I always keep promises to myself? Do I believe that I'm trustworthy? And if you really want to see if you believe that you're trustworthy, think about this in your mind. What's a goal that you thought? Most people have New Year's resolutions. Those New Year's resolutions are long gone. They might as well have made them 10 years ago. So the next time that you have a goal that you want to set, do you immediately believe in yourself or do you immediately doubt yourself? Trust your feeling. Because if you immediately doubt yourself, these are signs that you do not believe that you're trustworthy. So you're probably someone that lies to themselves. Now, how do you heal this? You heal this by beginning to take small steps to build back that trust. If you say you're going to wake up at a certain time, do it. If you say you're going to eat a certain way, do it. Right? And you're going to get much more proud. Let me give y'all an actual practical example. This is what I coach clients to do. I'll give y'all a little bit of free game. What we do is we actually start managing your life like a project. So you're going to make a goal, and that goal might be, I'm going to work out for 5 days a week for the next month. Monday through Friday, then Saturday I'm going to stretch. Maybe Sunday I'm going to just go for a light walk. Okay? Whatever the case may be. Now, you make this goal and you write on the calendar for the next 4 or 5 weeks, this is what I'm going to do. Now, at the end of every day, if you do it, you check the box and say yes. Here is where we switch it up. If you did not do it, you're going to go in, you're going to say you did it, and you're going to write why you did it. Why did you not do it? And you might have a good excuse. And this is the purpose of it, is that sometimes we get so attached to just checking the box, did I do it, or did I do it or not do it, that we don't really look at the conditions, so it doesn't help us grow. So we ended up just saying, I'm going to commit to this for a year, and then 3 months go by, 2 months, if you're lucky, a month, 3 days go by, and then we drop it and we just say, fuck it. and we just completely forget about it. But this is this is where the magic is. Okay, I was gonna work out in the morning, but I went out the night before, and when I tried to wake up, I was just tired. I said I was gonna go later on, but then I got busy in work. Well, what could you do? Like, why didn't you do it? And then what could you do to change this? If you could do this day over, what would you do differently? Well, I would have put a limit on what time I was out. So is that a rule that you can implement? So now I know the days that I'm going to work out on these commitments, okay, I am actually going to be in the house by 11 p.m. If I'm out, I'm going to make sure that I'm leaving by 10 so I can get to the crib, so I can shower, so I can go to sleep, so I can do my meditation, so I can be in the bed by 11, right? Or however long it takes you. Now, what this does is it starts training your brain in a different way. Instead of just looking at yeses and nos, right? You start looking at everything as a divine lesson. Even if you fail this day, even if it's because, bro, I was just tired and I was sick. Okay, this is why. Are you going to excuse yourself for that? Are you going to give yourself grace for that? Maybe you will, maybe you won't. If you don't, then what could you do differently? Well, I could have hydrated differently. Okay, I could have done whatever differently. Well, instead of just taking off of working out completely, I could have just went for a walk. I could have used that day as a walk. I could have shifted my schedule around. So now you start taking ownership of your life. And what you actually see is that it's not in just accomplishing goals that makes you feel good and positive about yourself. It's about feeling like you are in control of your life that makes you feel positive about yourself. So now, even when I fail, I'm learning something, I'm implementing new practices, and I'm getting my life to a baseline. Now, because of this practice, I've implemented rules. I operate with more discipline. This is part of healing that masculine within you, okay? And healing the feminine, because now you're giving structure to enjoy things. You're getting back to that healthy baseline, okay? Now I'm walking through life, and I know Monday through Friday, I'm going to be home by 10 or 10:30 or 11. And I'm going to limit my drinks to 1. And then on a Saturday, I can do whatever. So Saturday is the day that I allow my feminine energy to come out and play, and we enjoy that day. And I might go out to brunch, or I might show up to an event, or I might do whatever I can do on those times. And then I build in that feminine energy throughout the week, right? Like if I want to enjoy myself, then I do it between the times of 8 and 10 on the weekdays. And now I'm still refreshed for the next day. This is very healing. So it's not just about always, saying the right things or doing the right things. It's about doing what I say, let me say. It's about feeling like you're actually in control of your life, right? Which gives us a little bit more self-confidence and trust. But let's say that's not even the case. Let's say you do trust yourself, and this person's just been lying and walking in and out of your life, abandoning you, coming back, right? What about you allows them to do that? Why do you allow them to do it? Do you feel like you can't get anyone better? Why? You really go through the 5 whys, because all of these things are very personal. Why do I feel like someone's lying to me? You could go on the internet right now, you can go on books, and you can get 1,000 different reasons why someone might be doing that. But to heal these wounds within ourselves, it's going to take major accountability. It's like, why do I allow them to do that? How does it make me feel? Why? And you question yourself, and you stand in that fire of those emotions, and you allow your emotions to be your teacher. You allow your emotions to be your spirit guides. Shit, you allow your emotions to act as your ancestors, leading you to the truth of who you are. Right? Because the moment that you get clarity, okay, this is why I've been doing it. Now, how would I prefer to act? Now, when I start thinking about that, now I'm remembering who I am properly. Now I'm remembering who I am divinely, and now I can walk as such and allow the world to actually bend to my will in that way. Okay, so a lot of things can happen, man. But if I just had to say it from a physical perspective, from just my guess based on this one sentence, without knowing you and knowing the situation, I would say it probably comes down to just a lack of self-worth. Okay? And worthiness is not something that you can work to. Okay, it's just an inner knowing. And the moment that you kind of wake up into the fact that you are God, that God is within you, can't be separate from you, then you'll understand that God is always worthy. This is the way of God, is to be worthy. Okay, and so you're already worthy of everything that you desire. Right? The moment that you desire it, that means you have it because you are worthy. So you can accept it as such and move forward. And then when I know I'm God, I'll know that everything is intentional. Everything's for a reason. And the only reason I go through situations multiple times is because there's some lesson I haven't learned from it. Right? The only reason that I continue to let people cheat on me is because I haven't clearly remembered who I am. I'm picking the same type of people. Right? I have the same type of beliefs about am I a person who gets cheated on? If I'm walking situation to situation believing I'm a person that gets cheated on, I'll start pushing people to cheat on me because my belief has to be outpictured. So I'm going to start doing things subconsciously. Okay, if I believe someone's going to continuously abandon me, and it's always in my mind, it's my dominant thought, it has no choice but to outpicture itself in my reality. So it always just starts with self, man. It starts with sitting down and starting to write out and really think through, why do I continue to put myself through this? How is this making me feel? Why is it making me feel that way? Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? Why is that? And really start doing that work. Really start diving into yourself the same way. Like, we'll go pay someone to do this for us. Right? I can, and this is the thing, I work with a lot of people, but what I always come back to is you could do a lot of this by yourself. Right? The goal is to have one meeting. The goal is that we talk once, right? We talk once, we start giving you a framework of how to change your life, and then you can start using this on every single area of your life that you want to improve. Right? But yeah, a lot of people just suffer with self-sabotage due to a lack of self-worth. And then because we are so used to working at everything, you're used to working for the school's attention, for your parents' attention, for all these things, we think that self-worth is something that we have to, or we think that our worthiness to get what we want is something that we have to work for, when it's not. It's something that you are born with. Okay. I shouldn't have used worthiness and self-worth the same, right? Because worthiness is inherent, right? You are divinely worthy. But your sense of self-worth, you can build and destroy that based on like your own concept of yourself, not coming into that full self-actualization that you are divine. For sure. And I think there was one more. Okay, this is a good one. All right, so how to trust and have faith more when you're in this state of anxiety. Okay, so one of the best ways that helped me, you tell me if this helps you, hopefully it does. If not, I'll give you some different ideas. But the best thing that helped me was understanding that I don't know how to put this. It was understanding that my feelings, when I was starting to get into the manifesting world, people would always talk about you have to feel it real. Feel as if you have it, and then it will come. And I think one of the famous people who said it was Neville Goddard. But even he clarified it was like when I'm speaking of feelings, I'm not speaking of an emotion. Hey, I'm just speaking of the internal knowing that you're going to get what you want. So one thing about your emotions and your feelings, whether it's anxiety, sadness, fear, it is going to happen. You can't really stop that. Okay? You can get in your car right now and go for a drive and start feeling sad for no reason. You can get around certain people and feel happy for no reason. It can start raining and you can feel sad and anxious. The goal or the best thing to do is to constantly bring yourself back. It doesn't matter if I'm crying. It doesn't matter if I'm laughing. I still have faith in what's going on. My anxiety, my doubts, right, have nothing to do with my faith. Faith is more of a knowing than it is a feeling. Even Jesus on the cross said, Father, why have you abandoned me? Why have you forsaken me? Okay. And we see this all through history. Even the Israelites, when they were trying to get to the promised land, were questioning God. They went as far as to say we should have stayed in slavery. So all of these stories talk about this. Faith does not mean you will not have doubts. It does not mean you will not have days where you feel sad. It does not mean that you will go through life and not be triggered. Okay? But those are this is just energy. Okay, this is just energy within you flowing around. Okay? But it has nothing to do with what you desire. To get what you desire, you simply have to remember that you are worthy. That you are the sky, right? You are the sky, and every emotion that you have is the weather. Your anxiety might be a thunderstorm. The sky is still there. You are still there. God is still there. Your faith is still there. Right? Your happiness might be sunshine. The sky is still there. It's still the same. It's still ever present, unchanging. Right? A thunderstorm could come. It could be fear and doubt, right? But the sky is still there. So it is detaching my emotions from my faith. It is understanding my faith is just a knowing. My emotions are just feelings. They're fleeting. It's just the feminine energy within me just flowing around, just playing, just having fun, just reacting to whatever is in front of me. And that's fine. I'll allow it to do that. I don't suppress anything, right? So I don't try to suppress my anxiety. I don't try to suppress my emotions. And what I'll see is that as I started pulling my faith from my emotions, and I stopped thinking that faith was a feeling, something that I have to conjure up. And I just had a desire, and I just said, oh, I have a desire, it's mine. Because God is within me, and I am God, right? And I'll just walk his faith. I'll just try my best to when I start thinking about that thing, I'll just say, oh, I have it. It's cool, I have it. Whether I'm doubtful or fearful, I will say I have it. Whether I have anxiety through it, I will say I have it. Whether a deadline's getting close, I would just say I have it, and I'll stick with that anxiety. And then what I saw was that after the law started proving itself to me over and over and over again, which maybe you need to start with something that you perceive as small. Maybe you don't need to start with, the biggest thing in your life. Maybe you start with something that you think is small, and you allow it to build confidence, right? And what the byproduct of confidence in the law is, confidence in the law reduces anxiety. And that's only done when it's proven to you over time. Damn, now the market's back up. That's only done when it's proven to you over time. Right? But look at your God. Look at God, the God within you, your higher self, your soul. Look at this as your internal husband. Your internal husband, every time you have a desire, it's going out in front of you and it's handling business for you. Right? So we see matter, and what matter is made of atoms, right? And atom is 0.001% matter, the rest is energy. Okay, so 99.9999% of what you're seeing is just energy and information. It's the realm of God, your higher self, the husband within you. And it's not only surrounding you and operating in everything, it's touching your bank account right now. You know what I'm saying? It's touching all your relationships right now. But it's in rooms that you're not in. It's down the hall where you can't even see. Okay? This husband's always working for you. And the only thing that you need to do for it to work for you is to be aware of it. And that awareness can still be present whether you are anxious or not. Whether you believe, whether you are doubting or not. Whether you're fearful or not, sad or not, happy or not. Right? And the more that you lean into this actually decreases your anxiety. I don't believe in suppressing, so I don't think that it's rational or reasonable to say, oh, try to eliminate your anxiety so you can get what you want. No. The divine is within you, right? Like, you start getting what you want and your anxiety decreases, but you do that by leaning into the husband within you, leaning into your internal God, your higher self, that internal husband that knows what you want better. Okay? So trust and anxiety can live in the same house. Trust and fear can live in the same house. Faith and doubt can live in the same house, right? But how much do you actually, which one do you allow to consume you more? There are times where I can be in faith and that's it. I'm just feeling like I'm just in faith. There's other times that I'm in anxiety, but when I'm in anxiety, do I recall my faith? Do I continue to bring my faith up? Do I continue to maybe affirm through it? Or do I try to soothe myself through it. So I read scripture through it. Whatever you have to do. But as long as you remember that your faith is not tied to your anxiety, should everything be fine? There's a lot of things that not really anymore. I ain't gonna lie to you. There are a lot of things that I used to doubt that I've received. And I think now I don't really walk around with, can't tell you really the last time I doubted that I was gonna get something, but that was a byproduct of just God coming through over and over and over and over and over and over and over again for a long time. And we see this play out through the Bible. The story that I always use for a metaphor for this is the story of the Israelites leaving Egypt. Because the Israelites were in slavery and Moses was sent, a man with a stutter was sent to him. And he did 7 miracles. He even went as far as killing the firstborn kids with a guy within him, right, with his staff, which is really representative of his spine, right? We talk about the staff of Hermes Trismegistus, Hermes Triskerat, also known as Enoch for your Bible lovers, also known as Thoth, okay, for lovers of mysticism. Hermes Trismegistus, Hermes in Greek mythology, or what is it, Mercury in Greek mythology? All right, so this figure, right? Anyways, Moses went in and did 7 miracles, even killed the firstborn kids. This is how much he was trying to show, okay, I have you. I've done all these miracles for you. And then when the Israelites finally left Egypt, they still were sitting there saying, God damn, but we should have stayed in slavery. So we always have to constantly remind ourselves about what we've experienced in the past. When has the Most High brought me through? When has the Most High brought me through? Okay. And even if you fast forward in that story, right, because the Egyptians are chasing the Israelites. Pharaoh has chased them, even though God told him he was going to chase them. The Most High was like, I'm going to harden his heart. He's going to chase you so I can show them my power, so they'll never follow you again. So the Israelites got to a place between the land and the water. What happened was when they were complaining, we should have stayed in slavery, it started getting in Moses' head. And he even asked God, hey, what do I do? And God just said, what are you praying to me for? Just go. What are you praying to me for? Just go. Just keep moving. Whether you believe or not, just keep moving forward with faith. Okay? Faith is just moving forward. That's all it is. And what's the best thing that I can do right now? Sometimes the best thing I can do is meditate. Sometimes the best thing I can do is take my ass to sleep so I don't get in trouble. Sometimes the best thing I can do is just read. Sometimes the best thing I can do is just affirm for a couple minutes through my anxiety. All right? But finally, Moses walked up to the water, and in the Bible, in the canonized Bible, right, it just says the water parts. But in some of the missing books, I believe it's the Apocrypha, right, it actually was one of the Israelites who walked in the water first before it parted. So they walked out, and it wasn't until the water, like, it's up to their waist, it's not moving. It gets up to their nose, to where their nose is underneath the water. And boom, that's when the water parted. So it wasn't until they were damn near drowning that the water parted. And the rest is history, right? They go through the water, it kills all the Egyptians. All right. But the point is that you will constantly have moments of doubt. Jesus on the cross asked God why he was forsaken. You're always going to have these moments of doubt. But you can still fall back on the fact that faith is just a knowing. It's not a feeling. Faith is not a feeling. You can have faith whether you're happy, sad. Faith is not a feeling. It's a knowing. And it's just something that you bring up. Hopefully that helps. That's what helps me the most. How do I consider a woman to be high value? question. I haven't thought about that in a while. Let me think about this and I'll answer you. What makes a woman high value? My initial thought, let me just brainstorm out loud. That might be better. My initial thought was to say, if a woman likes me, then I consider her high value. But then I said, well, no, because even if a woman, I've met several beautiful women, we just ain't work out, or she wasn't interested. I still think that they're valuable, right? So that can't be my answer. My answer would have been completely different a year or two ago. A year or two ago, I would have probably said physical things. I would have talked about certain qualities and traits. I think at this point in my life, there are one of the most beautiful things in a woman, to me, is the knowledge of who she is. So, a lot of people allow the world to make them bitter. They allow the world to make them less divine. They walk around more guarded. They might go through situations and they become more guarded, become less kind. They become sharper. They become more conniving, sneakier, right? There are certain people who they just radiate inner beauty. And whenever I see someone who radiates inner beauty, I know that to be beautiful on the inside, that means that you have to engage with the world and you have to remember your divinity. You are a type of person who has went through things and you have not allowed those things to break you down. So that's probably what I would lean to consider a high value woman, right? Is a woman who hasn't let the world change her into someone that's disloyal, dishonest, that is out trying to be a man, right? A woman that understands her divinity, that's still kind, even though the world's not always kind, right? That is still loyal and faithful and beautiful and all those things, okay? And whether she's interested in me or not is irrelevant, but that's what I consider high value. And you can only step into that type of being if you do come to that self-actualization that you are God. Because if I do not believe that I'm God, and I do not see everyone else as God in disguise, giving me lessons, giving me opportunities to grow, pointing me to what I want, reminding me of when I lose sight of who I am, well then of course, it would be easy for me to put someone on a pedestal that hurt me and say, because of you, I am going to show up as less than myself. Because of you, this next person is going to have to deal with a guarded version of me. Because of you, I'm not going to trust. I think that's the easy thing to do. I believe that's a cop-out. Right? But it is a much more difficult thing to remain in your godhood and say, okay, well, look, you know what I'm saying? This, I guess from my perspective, I would say, this goddess, she did whatever. Right. But if this was God in disguise, what is the message? What is the lesson that I need to learn from this situation? And then move from there. I think that's a much more difficult way of navigating life. It's a much more divine way, but it's also a much more fulfilling way, because that way always leads you back to who you are and allows you to expand more into the person that you want to be. Okay, so that's how I would define high value woman. That's how I define it. That's true. A baby just exists in his love, and it's the same for us, right? That's why it even says in scripture you have to be like children to enter the kingdom of heaven, right? Because children just exist. Children, even if you think of it from the terms of like imagination to get to what you want, a child has no attachment to reality. If a child is running around the crib dressed up like Batman, try to tell them that they're not Batman. They're gonna look at you like you're crazy. What you mean I'm not Batman? You don't see the cape? You don't see what I'm wearing? What you mean I'm not Batman? This motherfucker's stupid. Let me go over here and play away from them. Right? You can't tell them that their Barbies aren't real or their toys aren't real when they're playing with it. Right? Children just do. They do. And their imagination is just as real as reality. And this is how we have to be to get the things that we want. Our imagination has to be stronger than reality. You look at your desires, perfectly said, with wonder, full faith in awe. Wow, I get this. I deserve this. I can experience this. And then you do not bring your ego. One part of it, though, of being like a child, right? The way that helps me understand it, and hopefully this helps someone else, is children don't bring ego. When we are in our life, we develop an ego, and our ego just is beliefs. People talk about killing the ego, but you really can't. Your ego is something that you have to exist here, or else you just be consciousness, just floating around, right? But whenever we go through experiences, we develop identities. You have a new job, all of a sudden you develop an identity as someone who works there. Somebody says, "Hey, what's your name? Who are you? Who are you, Alex?" "Oh, I'm so and so. I work for this person. I'm a son, or I'm from here." All of the experiences that we have, we form identities. And then we form beliefs as well. So your ego is full of identities and beliefs. It's who you believe you are. Because of that, most people will drag their ego into their desires. This is not being like a child. Okay, being like a child is leaving your ego at the door. Because what happens when you bring your ego in, when you bring your adulthood into your desires, is that you start to try to use logic to figure out how they can work based on the limitations that you've learned, based on the limitations your ego is attached to. Your ego is attached to a lot of limitations. Okay. When you say, if I'm somebody that's making 100K and I have a desire to make 150K, if I'm in my ego, I'll immediately think, well, damn, is it possible for me to get 50K in this job I'm in? We already had the promotion period. They already did performance reviews. Shit, I'm gonna have to wait till next. You start to logically think through the lens of your ego, because of your identity, how you can get this. When in the mind of God, that's only one portal that your money flows through. That job is just a portal for your money. You think you're getting paid by that job. They're literally just a portal that money's flowing to you through. And you could open more portals if you open your awareness more. So a portal could be the lottery. A portal could be somebody in your family passes away and they leave a will to you and nobody knew them. They were just a loner in the family. Okay? They were just a loner in the family and all of a sudden they leave you money. It could be finding a winning lottery ticket on the floor because all of a sudden you switched realities and you had people over and it looked like somebody might have left the lottery ticket, but you call all your friends and all of them say, "Hell no, I don't play the lottery." So now you just have a lottery ticket. You go take it to the gas station. It's like $25,000. And all of a sudden you're in a different position, right? A portal could be somebody wanting to be coached by you. You could have, your money could show up in ways that you cannot imagine. It's just your consciousness that's limiting it. So what we have to do is we have to imagine, or we have to realize that there's an infinite amount of ways that things can unfold. Even when people come online and they start telling you this is how you have to make money, this is how to be a successful entrepreneur, they're only saying things from their perspective. Yeah, you can take that and run with it and do it. There's no shame in that, right? It might help you. It probably will help you. But we also have to be aware that if we studied every single person that made money through entrepreneurship, you will find a whole bunch of different ways. Everybody's journey is very individual to them. So therefore, we can only conclude, based on that data, we can only conclude that there's an infinite amount of ways that everything can be done. And you're just in a reality with one of those ways. So when we are like children, we completely drop our thought of how things could be. That becomes the black hole. How it can be done is the black hole. I'm standing in just this black hole and I don't fucking care. I just have this desire. It's done. I have it. And I'm just going to walk through life and I'm going to do the next best thing that I can. When I need to plan, I'll plan. When I need to have discipline, I'll do that. I'll continue to work on myself and do all these structural things in my life to build myself up. But I'm not going to sit there and waste time trying to think of how things can unfold, because I can easily just study my life and say, all the ways I thought things were going to unfold, they never did it that way. So why would I waste time doing that? Why would I waste time doing that shit? Okay? I just continue to move forward. Just continue to move forward. I make the plan to the best of my ability, but I'm not attached to my plan at all. My plan really is just me telling God, look, hey, do whatever you want with this. This is how I think it can go. Do whatever. This is just a signal that I'm willing to work, that I have faith, and faith without works is dead. This is just my signal that I'm willing to work. For sure. Right. And that's really the one thing that you have to worry about is your self-talk. When you become aware of your self-talk, it's very interesting because a lot of people, the way that we talk to ourselves, if someone else would have talked to us like that, they wouldn't be in our life. Right? So it's always important to be very mindful of how we speak to ourselves. If that's the one thing that you focus on from now until the moment that you pass, if it's just focusing on how you speak to yourself and how you relate to your thoughts and how you relate to yourself, so that would be enough right there to change your life completely. Y'all. Oh shit, I didn't see this, my bad. Okay, I like to dwell in my feminine energy as far as being in flow, being in your flow. Could that be the reason why you struggle with delay / being on time? The first thing I want to say is I wanted to just say oh, time is fucking illusion, right? But there are some times we have to do what we do, right? Struggling with being on time. This is a very, very good lesson, right? Because that same way that we just want to be on time and flow, it's the same way that we should think about the desires that we have. We like to put time limits and tables and always look around, right, for what we're desiring. But stepping into our feminine energy more allows us to just flow with life and kind of lose track of time and just allow things to fall into our life. And when we step into our feminine energy more, we can attract things more and they can come whenever they need to come. Now let's look at it from a physical perspective. Okay, part of your masculine energy is going to be setting those boundaries or being prompt, right? Creating that structure. I have to be here at this time, so this is when I need to start, and boom, boom, boom. Your feminine energy can get really lost in the moment. Okay, so it's not just, and that might be fine for you. You might be okay with that. Okay, but if it's a problem for you, that is where you have to wrap your feminine energy with discipline. If you know that it's going to take a certain amount of time and you're going to be late because you just get into your groove and you're in the mirror having a concert with yourself, well, then do you need to start getting ready a couple hours earlier? And so what would that entail? If you need to start getting ready a couple hours earlier, what would that actually mean? Does that mean that you need to kind of bump everything earlier in that day? And you're like, okay, I said I'm going to start a couple hours earlier, but I didn't. How else can I manage that day? Could I implement discipline in that day so I don't feel rushed and I can still be in the flow of life and allow things to unfold, or allow myself to enjoy getting ready or enjoy just flowing through life? Right? But it all comes down to, do you think that's a problem or not? Do I think there's a problem or not? A lot of the women that I've been with, especially my last one, right? I used to just always tell her, that we had to be there way before we did. I just learned that over time, because I'm not trying to rush. If it's something I didn't care about, then whatever. I'll tell the right time. But if it's something I really wanted to be earlier on time to, I'll just bump the time up a little bit. Especially the airport. Especially the airport. Especially the airport. But all right, y'all. Your boy getting a little tired, man. So let's end this with a quick prayer, some affirmations, speak some life into y'all, and then we'll talk later. Maybe tonight, maybe tomorrow. We shall see. But as always, I appreciate y'all. Okay, if you guys want to see this full video or any of the other lectures, they're all on YouTube. Of course, the link is in the bio, so you can always jump on YouTube and see them. I don't delete anything. Don't really edit anything. Well, I don't edit anything. I just keep them all up there. Okay, but let's go. Heavenly Father, thank you for every single opportunity that you've placed in our life, even if we mistakenly view it as an obstacle. We know that everything in our life is pushing us to a more divine version of ourselves, a version of ourselves that's in alignment with everything that we want. Continue to remind us that you are with us moment by moment, and continue to remind us that the intimacy, the love, the healing, the worthiness that we are looking for in the external world is always within us and ready to be tapped into. Okay? All right, I see you all as beautiful, as divine, as perfect, as ideal. We got a synchronicity. Look what time it is, right? I see you all as perfect, as ideal, as worthy of everything that you desire, as wealthy, prosperous, whole. Okay? See you as in alignment with everything that you want. If you don't feel that way, it's cool, because I see you as that way anyway, so I know that it must be true. Okay? I know that it must be true. All right? Y'all have a beautiful, beautiful day, evening. Okay? Y'all be safe, and look forward to speaking to y'all next time, and God willing. All right? Thank y'all.